Hi, and welcome to the Canceled News, the second show I work for that thankfully wasn't canceled this week. I apologize if the set is in a little bit of disarray. There was an earthquake here earlier in the week, and I haven't finished cleaning up all the aftermath. There we go. Although the magnitude 4.5 earthquake hit near Los Angeles, no homes were damaged because everyone here lives in tents now. I have a great show. My guest this week is a fellow Hollywood conservative and Trump supporter. Former Arsenio Hall Show writer Sonja Schmidt will be here. I'll talk to her a little bit later, but first, here's what's in the news. A new Netflix documentary called My Octopus Teacher tells the story of a diver who became close friends with an octopus, until they got in a fight over politics and stopped being friends. The octopus is also working on a documentary about their relationship called This Douchebag Keeps Following Me. Julian Assange reportedly told his psychiatrist that he hears voices in prison. Then his psychiatrist turned back into a bedpost. A woman giving the finger to a group of Trump supporters while driving lost control and crashed into the car in front of her. Take a look. It's like the old saying, karma's a that woman. The restaurant chain Sizzler has filed for bankruptcy. To put this into perspective, Sizzler is now poorer than the people who eat there. Man, who would have thought charging $7 for steak wasn't a viable long-term business model? In a related story, investors predict a weak Golden Corral but a strong Long John Silver. Perhaps the biggest story of the week, last Friday, a clump of cells stopped growing. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at the age of 87. Now, as much as I didn't always agree with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she led an amazing life, and it's sad that we lost her. She served this country for a long time, and she embraced a spirit of bipartisanship. She was friends with Justice Antonin Scalia, and along with Mitch McConnell, she showed America that both liberals and conservatives can look like turtles. Now, as much as the loss of Ginsburg was sad for all of America, liberals are really freaking out about this. Here's how one lady reacted.
You guys! I'm driving your car, but I just got a notification that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died! Could this year get any f***ing worse?
That's how I reacted after Applebee's took the Thai chicken pizza off the menu. There are reports that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's dying wish was that she not be replaced by this president. Of course, her first dying wish was that she not be replaced before the Y2K bug hits. Then her next dying wish was that she not be replaced before the iPhone 4 came out. Then her next dying wish was that she not be replaced before the Malaysian airliner was found. Then her next dying wish was that she not be replaced before The Last Jedi comes out. She's been dying for a long time. President Trump, however, does plan to fill the vacant seat, and on Friday nominated Judge Amy Coney Barrett, a conservative Catholic. In fact, she's so conservative that she's already vowed to never wear one of those slutty lace collars. If she is confirmed to replace Ginsburg, Amy better bring her A game because she's got some tiny little shoes to fill. There was a scary moment this week. Air Force Two made an emergency landing with Mike Pence on board after striking a bird. Coincidentally, Air Force Two emergency is also how Mike Pence refers to poop in front of Mother. And while Air Force Two had an emergency after striking a bird, this lady had an emergency after striking the car in front of her while flipping the bird. At a rally on Tuesday, President Trump said that Joe Biden shouldn't have spent so much money on plastic surgery if he's just going to cover it with a mask. Biden responded by getting a boob job, which he will never cover with a mask. Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin have reached a deal to keep the government funded through December 11th. Both parties agree this should be plenty of time to make sure we've all died. Then if they need more money, their plan is to start an OnlyFans. Lifetime is releasing its first LGBT holiday movie starring a real-life married gay couple. Test audiences are already saying it's just as gay as every other Lifetime movie. An all-black cast, including Sterling K. Brown and Uzo Aduba, came together on Zoom to recreate a classic Friends episode. It was the one where they pander. Now, in spite of the novel casting, it was pretty much just like every other Friends episode in that I didn't see it. Although I'm pretty sure you can just watch Living Single. A survey found that in 2020, Hawaii is the happiest state, while West Virginia is the least happy state. Man, If West Virginia is now the least happy state, John Denver must be rolling over somewhere off the coast of Hawaii. After protests erupted in response to the charges in the Breonna Taylor case, a U-Haul was seen giving protesters signs, shields, and other equipment. And to honor their commitment to getting you riot gear when you need it, U-Haul has added mostly peaceful protests to their truck murals. This week, instead of denouncing the real violence actually happening in Louisville at the hand of left-wing rioters, or the similar actual violence that has been happening for over 100 nights in a row in cities across the country, the left is panicking over the paranoid fantasy that if Trump hypothetically loses the election 2 months from now, he hypothetically won't peacefully transfer power 4 months from now. And their entire body of evidence for this doomsday scenario is that Trump dodged a dumb question from an annoying reporter. The CDC has labeled trick-or-treating a high-risk activity for children, especially if you're going to Joe Biden's house. But I mean, if trick-or-treating is unhealthy now, when was it ever healthy to eat a pile of candy and razor apples a stranger gave you? The CDC is recommending that if you do go trick-or-treating, you should wear an N95 Jason mask. This week, the CDC also declared that the coronavirus can become airborne and travel over 6 feet before retracting that statement. They then decided that the coronavirus has laser vision and psychic abilities and all the powers of the other diseases combined. They're just making stuff up at this point. Bill Gates now says that Trump's travel ban on China may have made the coronavirus outbreak worse. So first it was racist, then it didn't go far enough, now it caused the whole coronavirus outbreak in the first place. A woman in Oklahoma led police on a chase after telling the officer who pulled her over that she couldn't stay because she had to poop. Her lawyer is hoping to have the charges wiped. Hey, at least she didn't end up like this lady. New documents reveal that Bill Clinton had an intimate dinner in Hollywood with Ghislaine Maxwell years after she was accused of sex trafficking. Clinton insists the dinner was perfectly normal and they enjoyed cheese pizza and some pasta with walnut sauce. A man who attacked R. Kelly in jail has been transferred to another prison. So for once it looks like R. Kelly pissed off someone. That's it for the news. Now please welcome my guest, fellow comedian and former writer for the Arsenio Hall Show, Sonja Schmidt.
How are you? Oh,
good. How are you doing?
Nice. I started to wear a tie.
What's that? I do for my show. That's it.
Very nice. Very
yes.
Good.
So you and I met through Evan Say It. We were doing his Right to Laugh stand-up shows together.
Right. Evan Say It asked. I met Evan Say It when I was a writer on or working on the Arsenio Hall Show, and he was a Republican. I had no idea. I had no idea when I was in Hollywood when I knew Evan what I was. I knew I wasn't. I wasn't what the people were who were in the room, and I didn't even know what they were, but I knew I wasn't that.
That I feel like that's often the first step is realizing I don't know what I am, but what's going on in Hollywood, I'm not that.
Not that.
Yeah. You mentioned the Arsenio Hall Show.
Right.
How did you get there, and what other shows have you written for?
It's a weird story. I'm going to try to condense this, but I was a woman who was living the lifestyle of the left. Therefore, I had 2 children out of wedlock, 2 different baby daddy, and I was on welfare. And I literally taught myself how to write television. And then I took a part-time job at Paramount as a page and was asked to come to get to sit on Arsenio Hall's show as a phone page. And Arsenio backed up and went, okay, who are you and what do you want to do? And my bright answer was, I don't know. So he said, why don't you come on with me and figure it out? And so did J. Anthony Brown, one of the other comics on the show. And J. Anthony Brown literally taught me how to write jokes. And then one day, literally like an Esther Blodgett Star is Born story, Arsenio hated his monologue. He threw it out. He says, where's that S-H-I-T Sonja wrote? And
I've written monologues like that before. What was it like then when you sort of realized you were a Republican, and then, were you open about it? Did you hide it? How did that kind of go?
No, I knew what would happen. I mean, they are all about their politics, and they were very hateful towards the other side. So the only peace I had, because I had moved out of Los Angeles into a suburb, and I was a TV producer at that point, and I would come back to my neighborhood and I'd work for the Bush headquarters, just licking envelopes. And I was laughing. I'm going, here I am with this high paying job and I'm finding so much joy. and working for just licking envelopes. But they gave us these exclusive Bush pins I put on my jacket, and you know what it's like in Hollywood. You don't put anything on your car. You don't wear anything. You're scared to wear red, white, and blue altogether.
Oh, yeah.
So
I would say about once every 2 weeks, I get up the nerve to wear my "Make America Great Again" hat out and around the neighborhood. Yeah, and it's interesting the different reactions you get.
And now I think you're probably getting more of a positive attitude.
It's interesting, you know, because I think the stereotype is, you know, everyone in Hollywood is on the left. But, you know, I have gotten, you know, some dirty looks. I've gotten people, you know, why would you support that? I also was at Starbucks the other day, and it was funny because there was a white woman behind the counter, you know, and she has her mask on now. And I was standing there outside waiting for my drink with the MAGA hat on. And a Mexican man came up to me and he goes, sir, I just wanted to say I love your hat. And you could see the barista's mouth drop under the mask.
That's fantastic. Well,
yeah.
Pretty much everyone was hateful when I accidentally left that Bush pin on. Typically, I would have removed it before I walked into the office the following day. But I threw on the jacket. It had the pin on, and all heads went, "What is that?" And it was downhill for me ever since.
Now, did you try to pitch any jokes that were from a conservative perspective?
No, I didn't think that they were jokes from a conservative, but there were storylines. I mean, there were some storylines that I know were conservative, but they pushed their agenda, as you know. Yes. Their story is, and I just spiritually, and it broke my heart. Yeah. There are many stories like that, especially when I worked for Disney, where their agenda is being thrust on children. I had to stay in and fight. I mean, and that's all I could do is whenever some of our characters had capitalistic leanings, they were the bad guy. Yeah. And it's
the evil rich old man.
yeah. So it was a crazy place to be. I wasn't treated well, and I knew that after my book on global warming came out for children, my days were numbered, and they were. I was not invited back when I finally came out, and it was heartbreaking because I'm watching all of my colleagues on shows, and I was not working. So
it feels very unfair, and it's sort of it's a catch-22 situation where there's this prevailing point of view in Hollywood, and I think throughout a lot of the entertainment industry, that conservatives aren't funny or that conservatives don't produce good entertainment. But at the same time, if you work in this industry and you're too openly conservative, or you try to write from that perspective, you get removed from the industry, basically. They either try to remove you, which hasn't happened to me, but what I found frustrating, and I've gone through the same sort of, you were talking about, you have this sort of spiritual conflict when you're working for a project that you know is putting forward a point of view that you don't entirely agree with. Mm-hmm. But like, I will write jokes that go after both sides. No. But it's interesting, in a Hollywood writer's room, you pitch these jokes that go after both sides, and then it's like, okay, we're going to cut all these jokes that go after that side, and we're going to leave in all these jokes that go after this side. But I think what makes conservative comedy hard is the left, because of their control of the entertainment industry and of a lot of aspects of pop culture, they establish a frame with which you can write numerous jokes that everyone understands the frame. So they established Russian collusion as a narrative, even though that wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And then every late night host can make jokes referencing Trump, Russia, because they've established that narrative. But when you don't have any conservatives in the industry establishing their own narratives, it's hard to even find the frame of reference that will get people to laugh in the first place, or that will make them recognize what the joke is.
There was a guy he's a Black producer. He's got the Midas touch right now. And he brought me in to work on this show, and there were so many references that I had that he had never heard of. He's never heard of Ben Shapiro. He had never heard the nanny state. Never heard of that term.
And like Ben Shapiro, for instance, is someone, if he were a left-wing celebrity, he would be on every late night show. He would be the popular guest. He would be...
Right. Ignorance is really bliss, because I tell you, doing this weekly show that I do, and I'm having to watch so much and be aware of so much, you just go to bed sometimes going, we're losing this.
It's discouraging sometimes, but yeah, we're doing good with our shows, and your show, I love it.
Can you imagine what, like, a week without liberal, with their hysteria, what that would be like.
That's one of the reasons I love talking to you and I love this show. It's like living in Hollywood. I I'm one of the few people in the country that doesn't live in a bubble where I'm constantly around people with a different point of view. And I'm always open to having conversations with them. And a lot of my social circle and my peers at work in this industry are on the left. But it is like when I get to talk to other conservatives, it's like I can catch my breath and just get away from the paranoia and the hysteria and the divisiveness for a little bit. Yeah.
I just can't imagine what it would be like if they just left us alone for a week. Just left the country alone. Just shut up. Shut up for a week. Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I want to make sure that my viewers check out your show as well. Tell us what your show is and where they can find it.
Yeah, it's called The Sonja Schmidt Show, and you can find it at rangebroadcasting.com or just go to my website, sonjaschmidtshow.com, and you can get all the information there.
Thank you to Sonja, and thank you to all of you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I especially want to thank my viewers who may not be conservative themselves. I always think it's good to have conversations with people with different points of view.